Radical. A lot of NBA happenings to discuss, most notably Paul is getting his due. He's finally due NBA Finals. The point guard himself. The flip-flopper himself. One thing I don't like about Chris Paul's game is, he just flops. He is one of the worst floppers, or how you might say the best floppers in the league. Just imagine him and Harden were actually on the same team at one point, right? I don't know if a lot of you sports fans know who Review Tech USA is, but Chris Paul, he flip-flops more than Review Tech USA. So yeah, before I talk about the Chris Paul stuff, I just want to put this out there. I hope Giannis, I hope that knee injury is not as bad as it looked, but it looked pretty freaking bad. Okay, just thinking about that. I've seen worse injuries, of course, but he came down on the knee. He came down and the knee went in a direction it's not supposed to go. He hyperextended it. So Giannis is done for the series versus the Hawks, I would say. An injury like that, you don't want to rush him back from that. If he makes it to the finals, I don't know if he would play a game in the finals. Again, that knee looks pretty bad. But you never know. If they make it past the Hawks, which I don't think it can do, since so much of their team runs through Giannis, sorry, I'm always going to get that wrong. It's just like, that's the whole story of the season it's going to be. It's just injuries. The whole story of the season is injuries. The best players are no longer playing right now, and that's just wild. But yeah, back to Chris Paul. I didn't get to watch this game. I just finished watching the highlights and looking at some stats here. A friend of mine called me up, and I was away from home. I didn't get to watch it. Hell of a game to miss, right? But he called me and said, man, all hell's breaking loose, all hell's breaking loose. Pat Beverly just, shoved Chris Paul and everything. And I guess I told him, it probably looks worse than it actually was. Because knowing Chris Paul, he acted a lot. And I saw it, and it was a pretty hearty shove. Chris Paul just walked off, and maybe he said something to Beverly, I'm not sure. But Beverly just got frustrated and just pushed him in the back, pushed him over. But of course, flopper Paul had to take about a couple different flops. No, he didn't. But he was just in the fetal position on the court. But even he was acting, so. And they had already won the game at that point. So, yeah. It was a blowout. They won by about 30 points. Paul? Did he turn back into George Paul? I don't think so. He had a decent game. He just wasn't that guy. He's not going to consistently be that guy. And the Suns were just on fire. They were cooking. The Suns were cooking, baby. A lot of heat coming from the Suns, but most of the heat came from the guy we're talking about, Chris Paul. 41 points. He was 7 of 8 from 3. 7 of 8 from 3. No turnovers. Had a damn near perfect game. He had a great game like Paul George had the previous game. I don't know if I talked about that, but he had an amazing game. Now, this is what I'll finish off on. He's going to the finals. What's weird about this is, one, a lot of people thought, well, maybe the Clippers could get that game because it's in their building. I was thinking to myself, nah, Paul's going to finish this. In that building, in the Clippers building, he's going to finish this, He was part of Lob City, right? So I think it's appropriate that he finished them off in that building. And he's going to the finals off a win in that building. The second thing I think about is how what led him to go to the Clippers actually ironically kept him, 10 years ago. It kept him from possibly winning a title or two with none other than Kobe Bryant. I don't know if a lot of you have followed basketball for several years or know this, but there was a trade that actually happened, and Chris Paul briefly was a Laker, but then it was nixed by the league. There's a lot of crazy moving parts there. Apparently, there's reasons that the NBA did not want that to happen, and they had a stake in the Hornets, the New Orleans Hornets at that time, and they vetoed the trade, which caused a lot of crazy things to happen. But Chris Paul could have actually played alongside Kobe Bryant. And then, I don't know if Dwight Howard was on the team at that point, but he wound up on the team anyway right after that. So I don't think anybody could have beat Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, and Dwight Howard at that time on that team. So I would say he's getting his. He's going to go to the finals and probably get a ring. He'll probably get a ring because you look at the other two teams, they're hobbled. Trae Young is injured. Giannis is injured. The story, like I said, is the injuries, and some people are saying, well, maybe the Suns had the easiest path to get there. That's what happens sometimes. Injuries happen specifically in the playoffs, and sometimes teams get a break. Ironically, when the other teams get like a leg or an arm broken from one of their star players, I would say, though, it's appropriate. You know, the point guard, Chris Paul, he deserves, with his Hall of Fame career, he deserves at least one ring, I would say. Okay? And he deserves an Academy Award for, you know, all of his flopping and overselling of fouls. One last note, just to put the cherry on this. He actually broke a record, as he's 36, so he was the oldest player to actually have back-to-back closeout games scoring over 35 points. The next player that had that distinction was actually none other than Michael Jordan.